Be seated. And by the way, I want to thank Jalen. He is new on the drums, and Jose has brought him in as a substitute. He'll be here occasionally from time to time playing for us. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. A fairly long time ago, back in the mid-1980s, when I was working in Dallas, I would be driving home on many days, and along the route there was a church. Now, it was a relatively new church. It was one of those box churches. You know what a box church is? It's like a box store. It's really, really big, and it looks like kind of like a Walmart or a Target. All right, so this was a period of time when the box churches were really kind of coming into their own. It was so big that it reached up above the trees, 20 or 30 feet. Now, mind you, the trees in Dallas are not as big as they are here. But there's this church up above the trees. And in it, I knew what was going on. You know, they're very popular. People, the praise band and everything, and people sing into the praise band. They have a good time. Preacher will preach about God's plan for you, how biblical principles can lead you to a successful career, successful finances, all in the service of God's plan, which is your family. You have a family. And all the way across the wall of this church, up above the trees, like 20 or 15 feet high, is one big poster. It says, family. In that period of time, a lot of us, I know myself and my age, we would do anything to have a family. In those days, and especially with many of those churches, family meant a particular kind of family. It meant a mom and a dad and kids. And nowadays, we are aware that there are now and have been many kinds of families. You got your mom and dad and kids. And that is a powerful, beautiful, holy, and wonderful kind of a family. You also have your mom and mom's kids and dad's kids. You got the male and female together with no kids. You got men and men with no kids, women with no kids. You got people in between, not sure what this whole man and woman thing is, and they got kids or not kids. You also have single moms with kids, and you got single dads with kids, and you got people who are single of all sorts who have no kids, and their families are friends or relatives. Because a family is the people who love you, who you can trust, and who trust you. And the people for whom you are trustworthy, and they are trustworthy, you love them. That's family. And that is God's plan for all of us. Newsflash, everybody. There is no such thing as a perfect family. The perfect family is kind of like a unicorn, right? Everybody loves to draw pictures of them, and they don't exist. For example, in the early 1980s, before I went to Dallas, and in this period of time, way before I met Thine, my wife, and the world started getting better, I was really not ready to get married to anybody. Let me let you know that as we begin. However, I did meet a young lady at church, and I will call her Sophie. And Sophie was very smart, and Sophie was fun to be with, and Sophie kind of like me, so we started going out together, going to movies and different things, concerts, and we had a good time. I had one little bitty teensy-wincy worry in the back of my mind, but it's okay. It's okay. It will be fine, says I to myself. Well, after a while, I went home to visit my parents, as I did every once in a while. My sisters also, we would go home to visit. And when we went home to visit, my dad would take us out to Barisev's seafood restaurant in Biloxi, Mississippi. We lived in Ocean Springs, right across the Sound. And Barisev's was the place where the Cajun shrimp boat captains would take their wives for dinner out once a month. All right, that was the place where they went. It was really good, fundamental, basic, none of this fancy seafood au gratin étouffée stuff that you get in New Orleans. You really must get seafood étouffée if you go to New Orleans. All right, I'm just saying, all right. But Barisev's. So we would go to Barisev's. We'd have a glass or two of white wine with our broiled fish or fried shrimp. It was a great place. So we were there, and after about a glass and a half of white wine, I thought it would be a splendid idea if I told my family about my new girlfriend. Woo! Okay, so here we go. Little bitty thing in the back of my mind, but it'll be all right. A little worried, but it'll be all right. So I say, now my mom is sitting in front of me, and my two sisters are there in front of me, and my dad is sitting right here. I can't see him. So I say, guess what? I'm going out with somebody. And my sisters say, again. Now, they don't say this out loud, okay, because they're Southerners, all right? But I know what they're thinking because I'm a Southerner too. All right, again, they say. And my mom, she goes through the routine. She says, what's your name? Sophie. Says I. Say, what's she like? And I say, she's really smart and she's fun to be with. And there's a little thing in the back of my mind, you're worried, but it'll be okay, it'll be okay. And she's kind of black, says I. Now, mind you, I must say this, or else the angels of the universe will pour down fire on me, because I need to let you know that Sophie was not kind of anything, okay? She was proudly, affirmatively, definitively African American, and don't you forget it. This was the truth. But I said, yeah, it's kind of. My mother, she kind of goes, oh, like somebody had poked her just a little bit, not really badly, but just a little. Oh, and in her defense, I must say, she was born in 1930 and grew up in Amherst County, Virginia, right adjacent to the Shenandoah Valley. Now, also, she had taught us from birth to regard all people of whatever ethnic or historical or cultural heritage as being dignified and beautiful and honorable in the eyes of God. That there is no one, that we are not better than anybody else and no one is better than us, that we are all of equal beauty and dignity in the eyes of God. So, why was she surprised? Oh, she says. But she is a stalwart person, and so she holds forth bravely and continues forward. And she says, well, where did you meet? Well, we met in church. She's a Lutheran, been a Lutheran all her life. Oh, really, says my mom. And what does she do? Well, she is doing her residency in clinical psychology at the University of Virginia. My sister's saying, yeah, she's going to need that if she's going to go out with you. Never even had to. I can tell. Yeah. Mom is continuing forward. Meanwhile, my sisters are watching my dad right here, who was born in 1925 in Roanoke, Virginia, and grew up there. In my dad's defense, he also, he would go door to door in the African American section of Ocean Springs and say, if you send your child to our kindergarten, we will pay the fees. And Bill Raspino, very Republican, very conservative, put up the money for us to have an integrated kindergarten. One of the first two on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, along with St. Alphonsus Roman Catholic Church, Christus Victor Lutheran. So there you go. Anyway, so my dad is going, whoa. But racism is really weird. It is complicated. It is, he goes, whoa. My mom, she's continuing forward. She says, really? Okay, well, where does she come from? She comes from New York. We think the Bronx. Okay, not only black, but a Yankee. I don't know, man. What was I thinking? Anyway, and you know how men of a certain age, when we get upset, we start to splutter? My dad goes, Andy, he says. Note to self. If you're going to tell your parents about your black girlfriend, don't do it after 2 glasses or 3 glasses of white wine at Beresiv's seafood restaurant. Our families are not perfect. Before I go forward, I also have to make a note here. In all fairness, Sophie's mother did not approve of me. No, I'll be going out with those white men. No. She did not think that was a good idea. Anyway, Jesus, in his gospel lesson for today, says that he will come, and when he comes, he brings division in families. Mother against daughter, father against son, mother-in-law against daughter-in-law. Now, I am not claiming that Jesus called me to date with Sophie, even though that was great fun. I am saying that Jesus calls all of us to regard each other with the dignity with which God has made us. And whatever ethnic and cultural heritages we might carry, they all are manifestations of the glory of God, each in their own way. There is no culture that is better than any other. We are all connected. We all have something to offer. This sometimes, along with many other kinds of issues, can cause division in our families when we're trying to follow Jesus. My dad and I, we did not part ways. We still loved each other. We still went rock hunting and we went fishing and, all that. But there's going to be, sometimes there's going to be friction in our families over what we feel like Jesus has called us to do and to be. Jesus had a strained relationship with his family. At one point, Jesus' family, his mother and his brothers, come to get him because he's gone nuts. He keeps on doing this crazy stuff like eating with tax collectors and sinners and healing on the Sabbath. That's nuts. Everybody's looking at him. What are people going to think about our family if he's out here going nuts all over the place? We're going to take him home where we can at least keep a lid on him. Jesus' disciples come to him and say, your mother and your brothers are here. And Jesus says, who are my mother and my brothers? Those who do the will of God, which he has shown us to be about the business of the fact that God's dreams and God's hopes and God's life for the world are close. They are not far away. They are present and active and powerful in our world. That we're to be about the business of healing, about the business of integrity, about the business of standing up to hypocrisy, about the business of making sure people have enough to eat, about the business of forgiveness. That the light of God is deeper than any evil that we or anyone else might have been able to do. It's an outrageous statement, but it's true. Those who do the will of God, they are my family, my mother, my sisters, my brother, says Jesus. At the same time, Jesus does not cut his family off. He does not put a wall between himself and the rest of his family. In fact, James, the brother of Jesus, becomes a major leader in the early church, and he is one of the first martyrs. And Mary, his mother, is there with him at the cross. James and John behave outrageously toward their father. They leave their father in the boat with the hired hands. This is the family's way of getting food. and making enough money to pay their taxes, to keep their boats, and to have their house and everything else. And they leave him, their father. Outrageous behavior, to go off and follow this wandering preacher. And yet their mother goes and travels with them. Strained relationships within the family, but still connected. Peter also leaves the family business to go traipsing off after Jesus, and then shows up at his own doorstep a few days later with Jesus and the entire entourage and says, "Hi, we're staying for a while." I wonder what Peter's wife thought about that. Especially when a member of the crowd that night starts digging through her roof to get in and get toward Jesus. I don't know what that means exactly. I mean, Jesus did heal her mother earlier that day from a fever, so I suppose it's okay. But family is complicated. You know that? Family is complicated and not perfect and won't save us. Jesus saves us. That's the good news. Jesus saves us. And Jesus works in the midst of all of our complicated, imperfect families. One of the ways Jesus works is to help us to be healthy as we know how to be, to grow in our health as best we can, and stay connected with the other members of our family. And as we stay connected with the other members of our family, they have no choice but to deal with us. Thank you. We have a cross at the top of our church. That's what we're all about. And the cross encompasses all of our many different kinds of families, every aspect of our lives. So we deal with differences in our families, in our churches. And we trust Jesus, be there with us. Jesus is our family. He loves us. He trusts us. He is trustworthy. Thanks be to God.